David Smith here with one more Flipped Classroom math video. 3 tips before we start. Remember, you can pause the video at any time to catch up with your notes. You can also turn on the caption down below and watch my words go by on your screen. Lastly, if you feel like you can do this, you can speed up the playback and get through the video a little bit faster. Today's topic, drawing graphs of functions. So we're going to start this with explanation of just a couple words that you really need to know the difference of, because if you understand what sketch means, it saves you time when you're making a graph. So there's 2 keywords in the IB. These are IB command words. You need to know specifically what all these command words mean. And I have a handout that I'll give you shortly in class that spells out all of the command words. And we'll talk about the most important ones in that list. So first off, we have sketch and draw. Sketch is quick, just like it sounds. Like if you're doing art, a quick sketch is just a sketch. Less detailed. Draw is accurate and it's more detailed. So when you think about making a graph, chances are you're really thinking about draw because you're trying to make it accurate and have all the details that you need to fully represent the function on the coordinate plane. But let's first take a look at sketch, because you will get that request from time to time. You don't need to label a million points and label all the axes and do all that kind of stuff. You just make a quick old sketch. So we're going to do 3 here. Here is f of x equals 3x plus 1. Straightforward linear function. A sketch might look like this. Y-intercept is 1. I might go 0, 1. Slope is 3, so it's kind of a steep line. Good enough. Okay? Pretty quick. I just labeled 1 point so we knew if I wanted to, I could do this. But that's good enough for a sketch. If you're using your graphing display calculator, you could pump this in, look at the thing on the screen, and then sketch it from that. Okay? But I would say you should know how to make a hand graph of that function. At this point, that is assumed prior knowledge. Okay, so here's another one. I want you to pause the video, make a really quick sketch of g of x equals x squared. There you go. This is the mother parabola. This is the basic parabola upon which all the other parabolas are based. It's a quadratic function, and it just goes through the origin, and it's a neither too wide or too narrow parabola. Looks just like that. That's all you need for g of x equals x squared. Now, try to do that one. And if you have your graphing display calculator, go ahead and give that a shot. Otherwise, you should know how to make this graph also, this quadratic function. So pause the video and make a quick sketch of that one. Okay, the 2 in front of the x squared makes this parabola narrower, and then the plus 1 scoots the parabola up 1 on the y-axis. So that's what I sketched, a narrower parabola than this one, and I put the vertex at 0, 1. So 3 quick sketches. By the time we're done with functions, you're going to know a bunch more basic functions and be able to make quick sketches. So again, pay attention to that particular keyword, sketch. All right, now we're going to draw some graphs. Draw. So we're going to draw 3 graphs, and I've got one more after that. And we're going to take a little bit more time to make these accurate and detailed. Okay, I'm going to do the first one for you. X-intercept at negative 3, 0. Y-intercept at 0, 5. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to make my coordinate plane here. My first intercept is negative 3, 0. So there's negative 3, 0. Like that. And my second intercept is 0, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. 0, 5. And this is a linear function, straight line. So it goes right through like that. Now maybe I could have done a better job of putting my point labels off to the side. In fact, pro tip, draw your lines first, then do your final labeling. There's my X, there's my Y. Maybe put a few more tick marks. Give me arrows. And that is a well-drawn hand graph. Okay? Now I want you to pause the video and try this one. The y-intercept, this is how I abbreviate intercept. It just saves a little time in writing. Y-intercept at 0, -1, and a slope of 1/2. So this is the easiest case. Just gave you 2 points. You can draw the line. Now you're going to have to understand what the slope means and how that lets you draw this line. Okay, let's see how you did. So I'm going to make my axes like so, get my x and my y going. My y-intercept is 0, -1, so that's down there. So the line goes through that point, and the slope is 1/2. So that means for every 1 it goes up, it goes over 2. So I'm going to go up 1, over 2. There's the a second point, and really, if you remember, 2 points make a line. So I have my 2 points, I can just draw my line. There we go. And that's good enough. If I want to be extra thorough, I could label my points 0, -1, and then this one is 2, 0. But strictly speaking, as long as you've got your tick marks on your axes and they're correct, you don't have to label your points. Okay? All right, so now I want you to pause the video and graph this linear function. Okay, here we go. Here is my y-intercept. So here we go. I've got that point. I'm going to add tick marks. Now, what's my slope? A little tricky. There's a negative out here. Whatever number is in front of the x term in a linear function is the slope. For example, this line has the equation of, let's say, g of x equals 1/2 x minus 1. The slope goes in front of the x. I guess I don't need that. The slope goes in front of the x, and then the y-intercept goes at the end. So here's our 1/2 slope. It's 1/2 x. So this one has a -1 slope. We can use this. M is often used to delineate slope. So m is -1. And we know our intercept is +1. So -1 means that for every 1 it goes over, it goes down 1. So we're going to go over 1, down 1. Here's my next point. There's my line. Boom. Like that. And that graph is good enough for that. Let's do one more. C of n equals 40 plus 5n. Now I want you to pause the video and see how far you can get, see if you can get this graph done. All right, let's see how you did. One thing we can do with this is we can change it into a more familiar form. Not necessary, but sometimes helpful. C of n equals 5n plus 40. Now we are in slope-intercept form, or as the IB likes to say, gradient-intercept form. So the gradient or slope is 5, our intercept is 40. We don't need to do this step, but some people find it more familiar that way. So now that I know what's going on here, I have my gradient, that's 5, and I have my y-intercept, that's 40. So I can go ahead and make my graph. Now notice I'm not making too much down below because I'm really not going to need it. Let's do this in 5, 10, 15. Let's do this in 10, 20, all the way up to 40, because I'm going to need 40 for my y-intercept. So there we go. There's my y-intercept right there at 40. And now my slope is 5. So that means I go, for every 1 I go that way, I go up 5. So this point here is going to be the point 145. Okay? Because I went over 1, I go up 5, and so my line is going to go right through there. Okay? So now my graph might not be strictly well done to scale because maybe that slope is a little more steep, but as long as I label my point, and notice I have a 1 there, so we know that that is 1, I'm good to go. Okay, here I am at the calculator. Now this calculator is somewhat complicated. It does a lot of things, but it takes a little while to figure out all those things. So I'm going to walk you through this. This is our first time in our class that we're actually doing some calculator tutorials. In the future, I will most likely provide you with YouTube links to videos that are already out there that explain this calculator. Okay, so I'm on the home screen. If you press this button here, that takes you to home. And notice how I can go up and down on my with my pad here, indicating where the highlighting is there. So now I've selected graph. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and that takes me to this screen here. Now on my menu, I press menu, I'm going to go down to graph entry edit, hit my arrow to go over, and I'm going to enter a function which is already highlighted, so I can just press enter. And so now I have this entry screen. Notice how it says f1 of x. I'm going to go ahead and just make that f of x because this exercise is going to be helpful to have it be set up that way. Now, my first function that I'm going to enter is negative x squared plus 4. I'm going to go ahead and hit my negative, hit my x down here on the keypad. I can hit the caret over here and put 2 for squared. Now I need to scoot my cursor over 1, and then I can do my plus 4. And now if I hit enter, presto, I've got my graph. Now you want to make sure you can do this on your calculator. Now a quick little tip here, notice how our axes are pretty scaled out. That's all the way to 30, that's up to 22. So if I want to zoom in on this graph, I can go ahead and click on the scale here. Notice how I get that hand. If I push down and hold a little bit, the hand closes. And now I can drag to the left, and notice how I'm zooming in on my graph a little bit. So I'm going to do that. Now to stop zooming, I'm going to click down again, and notice how I get back to my cursor. So now let's just take a quick look at this graph. You can see what the intercepts are. I have intercepts at 2, 0 and negative 2, 0, and then my y-intercept is at 0, 4, and you can just count the tick marks. Later we're going to show you how to get exact values from intercepts that aren't even integers, but this function is nice, it cooperates, it's pretty straightforward. Notice also how we have our function there, and sometimes you'll want to move the label around, and so you can do the same thing you did with the scale. Notice how I have the open hand, so now I press down and hold until I get the closed hand. Now I can just drag that label around, then press down and hold again, and that releases that dragging. Let's go ahead and make another graph. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my menu button and go down to graph entry edit, and I'm going to enter another function. Just press enter there. And notice how now it says f1. Notice how we have f of x there. So it's always going to give you a different name of the function. But what we're going to do here is we're going to change that to g of x. So here we go, g of x. Now this one is going to be a little different. This is the square root of x minus 3. That's the function that I'm giving you. So you'll notice that the square root button is the control of the squared button. Kind of makes sense. They're inverse functions of each other. So I'll press control, hit the square root. Notice how up on top now we have a square root around a box for entry. I can do x minus 3. And so there's my g of x equals root x minus 3. If I hit enter, presto, and there's that function. So I don't really need to change my zoom. We can see the two functions on one graph. And now I can walk over to the board and quickly make a sketch of this graph. Notice how the x-intercept is 1, 2, 3. So the x-intercept is 3, 0, and then I'm just going to make a gently curving line.
Now that you've watched the video, take a moment to write down any remaining questions so you can bring them to our next class. Also remember that you can watch the video again to remind yourself of what we did or deepen your understanding. If you enjoyed yourself, please click like or subscribe.